Hello and welcome to today's video. So this is the first of two cleaning videos for my book pickups from December 2020. So in 2020 I was able to pick up towards the very end a couple of nice little job lots of Pan books. They had like 40 or 50 books in each lot, as well as like a handful of Penguins. I got some Edge books, some new Ed McBain, all sorts really, and that's what we're going to be having a look at today. But because there's so much, there's no way I could fit all of this into just one cleaning video. So I'm going to do this one over sort of two parts, and we'll see how we got on there. So lots to look at and a real variety of stuff. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay then, so just grabbing the first like little wedge here, and these are all Pan books, and I think what we do, we've got so much to go through. I'm not going to be able to dwell too much on these. This is a job that sort of needs doing, but it's a good job at the same time. So I'm just going to zoom through these, and thankfully, this is a first in the X series. Hopefully, a lot of these are going to be either improvements to my own copies, or they're just going to be ones that I can pop into my swaps. Some of them might be later copies that have had their covers changed, which is something I have started picking up now. Some of the Pans with different jackets on them. So what I'm doing initially here is just going through each book, just making sure there's no obvious like writing or any price stickers or stuff inside on the covers. That's one of mine. I really like that jacket by Pef. Real great one. That had a couple of copies of that recently. But yeah, I'm just doing the initial check just to see how they are. There's a couple of like folded over pages there. And I do find I keep all my new sort of book acquisitions to one side. And then I have a little sort of sessions, such as what we're doing today. I'm filming this on a nice Sunday morning in the new year. That's the second there. It's quite nice to pull everything together, get everything cleaned up, looking as good as it possibly can be. And then some of it I'm going to be moving into my swaps pile. And other bits will be joining the main collection once they've been cleaned. Cool, this is a real state. This one, that's actually like sort of mud or something on it, but it's one I don't actually think I've got, but it's in a pretty sorry old state. Yeah, it's a real borderline one to keep. I mean, if it's a number I haven't got, which I'm pretty sure I haven't, because on the X series, that's where my main gaps are now on Pan, because I've never really sort of tried to specialise in filling those ones in, whereas I did concentrate on the number only Pans. Yeah, I think he's alright. It just needs that front jacket cleaning up. So we get a few more. Let's get another few, and then I'll do the tops to them, and then I'll do the polish the covers as well. So it'll be a multi-stage process on these, but we'll go through them almost production line style until they're all done. Certainly some good ones here, and a few I'm absolutely certain I've not got. And you never know, there might be a few. Oh, look at that. Race of the Tiger by Alexander Cordell. That appears as if that says Alexander Cordell. So it looks like this is signed. Pamela Chartrand's June 1967. Yeah, that looks like it's signed. I'll have to check that up and see if that is actually the author's signature. But that's quite nice. And I was literally just saying, there's bound to be a few surprises in here. And the very next one is just looks like a signed copy. Definitely haven't got this one. It's funny how you if you love your books as much as I do, this is a reset edition. It's funny how you get to recognise all the different covers and know if you've got them or not. certainly, this is a numbered one and I've completed that run now. But, it's always nice to compare them and see if I've got better copies. Certainly they're looking great now, because a few of them I've had 3 or 4 copies of, and I've been able to pick out the best ones. But only because I've just had them so long. I've been collecting them for decades now, so in that time you're going to get good copies. I love watching Gary Levisi's book videos over in New York, and Gary pulls out bits and pieces from his collection. Gary's been collecting probably sort of 50 years, and over that time, of course, he's updated his collection numerous times, and they just look fantastic. So I think that's probably enough for that bit. So I'm just going to grab a little wedge, and what we need to do, I'm going to run my trusty toothbrush along the top edge and bottom edges to clean off any dust that might be there. And then any books which are particularly bad, I think I'll put to one side, and ones which only need sort of a cursory polish, I just put to a different side. So the really bad ones that need a real good going over will go to one side. So they're generally okay. They're as clean as they're going to be. There's no writing inside, and there's no gluing of the spines or anything involved, so they can go to the back. But because these were in job lots, of course, lots of dust and dirt on that one. Because they're in job lots, you have to sort of take the rough with the smooth. And there are some crackers in here, as well as there being some awful books which may end up just getting put into a job lot themselves, and I won't keep them. With all my doubles, I do sell them on eBay now. When I get a chance to list them, I have got about 500 or so pounds to get listed still, and other pet publishers, but I just haven't had the chance to do much lately. But what I've put up has been well received, because I don't overprice them by any means. So this is the one that needs much more attention. I'm just wondering whether, see, it's not like the spines come away, it's just worn out. So that one, because it's got so much dirt on, I'd almost be tempted, I don't know what it is. So I think what we'll do, I'm going to put that to one side, because that's going to be one that needs sort of special treatment eventually, that one, because it's so bad. But the other one's not too bad at all. Right, here's another wedge of pans here. So some of the ones, as I said, I bought these in a job lot. Titles like that, and some of the wall ones, like the Dam Busters, I think Enemy Coast Action, they sold multiple copies. So this one's interesting. This is first published in 1954. It was reset in 1955, but this is the one from 1957. So almost certainly I won't bother keeping that one. I've got, it's the sort of book I would only want sort of one copy of anyway, unless they change the jacket of it. So that'll be just into my a job lot swap. Certainly haven't got this one. And there was a few military ones in here, actually. Yeah, we were just talking about that one that might have been like a signed copy. That's nice, that one. I was looking through a little collection of Penguin crime books, and I was over the moon to find 2 signed books by Freeman Willscroft, the classic crime writer. They're really nice as well. Yeah, really nice. That's a later edition of that one. That's got a little 15p in. So I need to dig out my rubber here. Here it is. I'll just dig that one out. So I do have, I've had a few people leave me comments, and they've said, Jules, this is just what I've been meaning to do on my books. Is like basically get them all out and give them a darn good clean, basically. So if I have inspired you, I'm glad. in actual fact, that's good news. So, yeah, get your books out, give them a clean, give them a bit of a, this is another very common one, give them a bit of a going over, because it's a very satisfying process. And then, you might come across something, I'd forgotten all about that, I want to give that one a read now. That would be what I would do. Escape or Die. Another quite common one. Well, 2 copies of it. There you go. You see, as I said, these do come a bit sort of hit or miss, although I don't believe I've got either. So this one in the M series. Yeah, this was the first. The other one was a second. This was a TV tie-in. Julie Christie there on the front. Let's get a few more, and then we'll do something a bit different. Don't think I've got this one, G32, unless I've got it, but it's with a different jacket, possibly. No, it says it's the first. Maybe. It's a nice copy anyway, so that'll probably be an upgrade. The Hosts of Rebecca. So I do collect vintage Star Wars action figures. A lot of them I bought at the time when you could still buy the figures in the shops, which was probably the best time to buy them, to be honest, because they were nice and cheap. In fact, the shops couldn't give them away quick enough, in actual fact, which suited me, So I was very lucky to get virtually all of them at that time, dirt cheap, so I was really pleased with that. But nowadays they're so sort of valuable and quite precious, and lots of collectors after them, that I thought I'd treat myself to some beautiful like acrylic cases for them. And some of my best ones are now in like these beautiful cases. They're made by a company called GW Acrylic. Now, I got to know the owner of GW Acrylic quite well, because he does, apart from cases for Star Wars, he does them for like other toy lines as well, like old Mego superheroes and Masters of the Universe and Thundercats and Transformers. He does big boxes for ships as well. So, but one thing he doesn't do is those cases for classic paperbacks. So I have suggested to him that he create some really nice bespoke display cases which would fit vintage paperbacks. Now, obviously, they come in different sizes, so what I'm cleaning at the moment so far is the standard A format. But in America, we had ones which were slightly smaller, which were like the pocketbooks, the Dells. They were like the smaller format. And over here, we had Corgis, which were in that size as well. And then, so apart from like those, and then there's the B format, which is bigger again. So that's like the 3 main formats of paperback. And then we've also got different thicknesses. So he would need to do basically 3 different sizes, height-wise, and then potentially 3 or 4 different thicknesses to get the right one. But for some books which are, potentially big money, I think I'd like to have my copy of, say, Casino Royale in a beautiful sort of display case which makes it pop, and I could sort of put it out on display. It would stand up on its own, and also give it really, really nice protection. So I have got a week off work in January, and I'm very much going to concentrate, this is the last lot of these pans, on trying to get those dimensions sent off with some samples to the company, Christian at GW Acrylic, and see if we can come up with something, because I shall certainly let you know the progress that I make on that, because I, for one, would absolutely love something like that for my rarer books, and I think you would too. Everyone's got a few special books in their collection, and if you can imagine them, really popping with a beautiful display case, a nice cover in it, a puffer jacket. If you can imagine them really popping, I think you'll love them. So yeah, watch this space for that. That's something that's definitely going to happen this year. It's not a quick process by any means. It'll be something which happens, and then they need to get manufactured, probably in China, I think, is where the plants are, where they're made. It's dusting's all right. You can sort of see it. Probably a bit difficult at your end, but I can just sort of see like a little layer of dust. This one where it's been potentially left out. It's one I don't think I've got. Which is good that I've got a few extras to my my Pan X's, my Giants, because they're the next ones to film. So I've recently finished all the great pans, the G's, and I've done all the numbered ones. So the next logical series to take over is the Giants. Thing is, there's quite a few reprints in those. So there's reprints with different jackets, so I think they do warrant looking at for sure. But historically, the reprints I've not bothered with Pan, and I wish I had now, because some of them are really, really great jackets, and they do sort of form part of the Pan story. So since then, thankfully, in the UK at least, Pan books aren't that difficult to find. You can pretty much get them all. But I do like enjoying finding them in nice big bulk, because they tend to be better value. So, and I am at the stage, certain job lots is probably the best way to buy them, rather than tracking down a book at a time. That would take a long time. It would prove to be very expensive. So I've definitely not done that, with a few exceptions, so... Let's give these a bit of a wipe. So the next sort of Pan video I've got is going to be the very first of the Pan Giants. So that's the Pan X series, probably approximately 100 books. But it'll probably be the first sort of 150 in the series, because I've got some gaps. But that's alright. I might keep it to the first 100 or so, because the early ones were worth sort of extra attention. And then the next thing I've got, I hope you all saw my Leslie Charteris and the Saint in Pan Books recently video. I absolutely really enjoyed popping that video together. Enjoyed doing the research. And thankfully there wasn't that many books out of the dozens that were published by Pan that I didn't have. Just some of the reprint editions. I knew it had gone down well, because there were lots of members of the Saint collectors website on Facebook were really complimentary, so they really enjoyed it. In fact, one guy said, I'll give you all my horror editions when I dig them out, so I can do a follow-up video. So I said, that would be brilliant, thank you. So that would be cool. So look out for another one of those at some point next year, with a bit of luck. He said he's just got to find them, but he did also send me a link. Let's do some of these now, with to all the French jackets for the Saint books. They're absolutely amazing. So I did also get recently 5 more King Penguins in my run of 76. So in actual fact, I believe this just leaves me 1 or 2 for the full run, and that's the whole lot done then, which I should be very, very pleased with, because this has taken decades to track them all down. When I get these, sometimes they are in amateur dust wrappers, and I always sort of remove those. I prefer not to have them on there, but they can be a bit delicate. Romney March, this is one of the sort of later ones here, and all I'll do with these as I go along, it's just basically the tops generally, and often King Penguins, because they go through the second-hand book dealers. These are known collectibles by normal book dealers rather than paperbacks, which can be a bit scorned on. Sometimes they've got book dealer pencil markings in. This one actually hasn't. It's the first from 1950. It's in its original wrapper, which unfortunately has got a bit of a faded spine, but I don't mind too much. Now that I'm so close to the end, I was really picky with these early on and just wanted to get the top quality copies that I could find, but because I'm so close now, I do just want to get the run finished, and then I'm going to film a couple of videos on them. This is another one that proved quite elusive. All of these, because these are the last few that I've got, you could say all of them have proved a bit harder to get than I would have expected or liked. This is on the Isle of Wight. Barbara Jones. Now this says just just for a tiny little bit of dust along the top. That's actually a really nice copy of this one, so I'm pleased with that. 1950 again. And this one's also in a dust wrapper, which is sadly faded on the spine, but overall it's absolutely fine. It'll do me. Yeah, I really like the king penguins, but they have been much harder to collect than I ever thought. Picking them up bit by bit. Whereas in the past, I do remember being offered like a couple of sets where it was the whole lot in one. This one's a bit. This is borderline, but it's one that's taken me a long time to get, the Book of Lilies. Being offered the full set for like, I don't know, £500-600, but where's the fun in collecting that? And I'm sure I've spent less doing it bit by bit, whereas it would have been far easier to have bought them in a set where someone's actually already completed it. But I think part of the fun of collecting books is tracking down the missing volumes, isn't it? So it does sort of take the fun out of it a little bit. Yeah, 1943, look at that, published at the height of the Blitz in the UK. And what a level of quality when you think when it was actually published. Book of Mosses, another very tough one. Took me ages to get, and it's still not the greatest copy. I was a little disappointed with this one because the dust wrapper was so worn, but at least it's still in its dust wrapper. And it will just be one of those ones that I'll update at some point. This one's got a little £6 in it. I didn't actually pay that for it. I paid about £4, but I probably would have paid up to £6, including P&P, just to get this one that's proved elusive off my wants list. The problem is, some of these were reprinted, some weren't, and some were massively reprinted, like say the Bayeux Tapestry. So when they do turn up, sometimes the sellers aren't book dealers, or book collectors, they don't know what printing is what. And that means you gotta drop the seller an email, say, look, do you know what printing this is? Does it say reprint anywhere or something like that? And it's a bit tiresome, but often, I didn't do the top of this, often people have just been left these and they just need to do the best that they can. Yeah, it is really rough, that Book of Lilies, so that's definitely one that I'm going to have to, because it's a bit too far gone when I consider how good my other ones are. Misericords, this isn't too bad by the look of it. The dust wrapper cut, but once again, quite a scarcity. A bit of dust on the top there, a bit of foxing, but not too bad. Yeah, just a little bit of rubbing out of the price inside there. And as I said, that's typical of king penguins. There we are. So I'm looking ahead at the next stack and I can see some more penguins. I can see some Ed McBain. Oh yeah, I've got a nice Dell map back as well, which someone sent me from the States, which I shall go into when we get to that. So these don't need polishing, so they're just going to go over to that side there. Okay then, so let's soldier on, and we got just a few more pans in this next snack here, and then we'll be on to, I've got some Ed McBains and a few other publishers, so we'll just crack on. That's quite a nice one, that Don's Man with the Tin Trumpet, Royal Flush. So, in the new year, I did treat myself to a new camera. I thought I'd get a dedicated camera to do my videos now, rather than using what I'm doing at the moment, which is just my smartphone. And I bought a Sony ZV-1, which was not cheap by any means, but thankfully now the channel is starting to earn a bit of money on advertising, and it allowed me out of that sort of pot to treat myself to a nice camera. However, sadly I've had to send it back because I haven't been able to get any of my microphones to work to plug into it. So the one that I got was the Sony ZZ-1, and the actual, when I looked into it, I watched dozens of reviews on the camera, and it was certainly one which was, for the sort of videos that I do, absolutely perfect, because it's got very, very quick autofocus if I was moving stuff to in front of the camera. But, and I literally spent 2 or 3 days getting to grips with the settings. Yes, that sticker's just come right off, no problem at all. So I got to know all the settings, and I had it all set to run, and I was doing some little practice videos yesterday just with the video side of it, ready for today's filming, where I got these cleaning videos to do. And I could not get the any of my external microphones working properly. I tried everything. So it comes with a little internal mic, but that is not good enough for what you would expect from my videos. So it was just too much background noise. So I didn't want to do that. And it was also on top of the camera. So my camera at the moment is up there, and we're filming overneath. So the sound would have been as if it was coming from below the screen, whereas at the moment my microphone is just there, so I sound good. It's nice and clear, and that's what we wanted. It's quite nice. The film edition to The Collector, really good book. That nothing to do with book collecting. He's a butterfly collector. Another nice one there. So so I've had to send it back. So sadly, the new camera has gone back, and until I can find something, it was expensive, and I for that sort of money, I wanted it to really hit all the right noises, and unfortunately it just didn't. I'm not going to spend that much money if the microphone doesn't work. And I then went back online and did the usual sort of searches to say external microphone not working in this camera, and I found a few other people who reported the same thing, and it was a bug. It seems to be a bug in the particular camera, so there's literally nothing I can do about it. And it's been out 6 months, and Sony themselves haven't sorted the issue. So for that reason alone, I'm afraid to say it's going back to where I bought it from, and I'm going to get my money back. So it's a bit of a shame, but I am going to keep my eyes peeled for something a bit more dedicated. Yeah. Okay then, so I just had to halt filming just for a moment there, because the camera I was using was sadly overheating. So it's not been going without its technical issues today. So I've just rewound a little bit just to sort of go back and make sure everything was working properly, which at the moment it seems to be. Okay, right then, so I forget where we were at talking about now. So yes. So a dedicated studio. Now this is obviously, that would be an absolute dream to have my own sort of dedicated little area which I could just go to at any time and start filming new videos for you. I mean, that would be literally a fantastic dream, and I could do stuff in a lot more detail than I've been doing it so far. So that most recent video I mentioned to you on Leslie Charteris and the Saint, that is more the sort of video I'd like to do going forward, and I really, really don't know if I'm going to be able to continue doing 3 YouTube videos a week. I just don't know if I've got the collection to do it. I mean, I probably could go into a lot more detail on some of it, but I think sort of like a specialist video looking at a different aspect of the hobby is probably the way to go. And of course, as I'm sure you're aware, I don't just do gaming videos and books. and Star Wars. There's quite a variety of stuff on the channel, so I do need to have a little think about it. Anyway, I'm just pausing there on that thought because we've got a few different books now. So this is a lovely Dell map back, and this is A.A. Fair's Fool's Dark Friday. Now, this is the second edition of this one because the first print, she was in much more of a state of undress, and then the second one, she's zipped right up. Unless this is the first one, and the later one, she's completely zipped up on the front. But I did help a chap out in America who came across a fantastic, and I mean fantastic, collection of stuff in a storage locker, and he bought them. And just needed my help going through some of the rare ones, so I did give him a little bit of help. So this was just a cheap and cheerful mukbang, one I haven't got, of the 87th Precinct. I really enjoy the 87th Precinct. I'm going through them in order, and I find Ed McBain's writing great, really great. So yeah, what I've read of the 87th Precinct novels I've been really pleased with. But trying to get a set together in British first edition has proved difficult. I've got all the early ones because they were published by Penguin in the UK, but some of the later ones are proving a little bit more elusive. In a lot of cases, I'm just happy to have the original jackets, you know. This is quite nice. This is one I realised I was missing. I'm also planning to put together a video on the Quatermass books and the TV series and the movies. I've been a big fan of the Quatermass books and the films for a long time. They're all Hammer horrors. And for some reason, when I went to check, I was certain I had them all, but for some reason I was missing a copy of Quatermass 2. Brilliant cover, with the falling bodies there. Penguin did 3 of them. And these are the original scripts for the BBC adaptations, so look for that one as a forthcoming specialist video where I concentrate on the Quatermass phenomenon, such as it was, Nigel Neal. Another great one now. The only sort of Edgar Wallace one that I really like is The Forger. I think it's a great book. Then another Steinbeck. So let's give these a cleaning of the top edge, and we'll get back to the studio. So what we've decided to do now, I am having after many years, we've finally got round to getting our kitchen prepared to be done. So our kitchen is long overdue a bit of a refit. And my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, he fits kitchens for a living, which is quite handy, as well as being a really accomplished carpenter. So he is going to build me the dedicated room, potentially in the garden, where I can do my filming and leave my camera, not my camera, but my lighting stuff set up. And then all I have to do is take the stuff that I'm filming that day out into the studio, as it were, turn on the lights and start filming, which would be brilliant, wouldn't it? And if I do end up getting a dedicated camera, something a bit better than my smartphone, that would be also really cool. So that's happening, but in March, at the moment, unless there's a lockdown where tradesmen aren't allowed to come into your house, I will be having quite a bit of work done in the house in March, which means potentially I need to go hell for leather in February and film as many videos in advance as I can, just so that I've got a bit of my own backlog, so I can keep some new videos coming throughout March, because potentially I may not have much of an ability to film for about a month, or I just won't be filming here, because where I'm filming right now is actually where the kitchen is going to be, the kitchen sort of diner is going to be. So it may be that I have to film some collections in my collection room, in my den, which will be fine, because I don't do many up there, but there's not a lot of room. It's there's enough room to go around and get access to stuff, but it's not really ideal for filming. So we'll have to see how we get on with that. Right then, so here's another bit of a mixture. So that's sort of the plans for the year. So get the kitchen done and out of the way, and then I'll start saving up to get the dedicated studio built, which I think will be really good. This is really recommended book, this by Hemingway. It's his look at the bullfighting phenomenon, which repulsed him but at the same time fascinated him, and really comes recommended this. I really like Hemingway, and that's one of his best, by the way. Yeah, so it's going to be a bit of a tricky old time, and I do hope you'll stay with me, even if I do even if it does result in me basically not putting any videos up for a while. In the background, believe me, I'll still be collecting, and it may give me time, if I'm not actually able to film very well, it may give me time to actually write some videos. So something like the Saint one, that really was a bit of a work of, it was almost like a scholarly work, in that I had to do some research, I had to write a script, and then, as well as obviously dig out all the books and find the ones that I was missing. And it did take a bit of work, which is absolutely fine. I don't mind it, because that's all part of the fun. But I think the result was so good. I'd like to do those sorts of videos a bit more going forward, so in which case they will require a bit more research, which is absolutely fine. I don't mind doing it, and that's the sort of thing I may have to do if I have got downtime. And it may just be, it literally goes down to like one video a week until the work is done at home, As well as Penguin books, I do collect the vintage Pelicans, only up to about number 700 or 800, of which I'm missing about 30 now. These are a few that came my way. These are all sort of wartime ones, and they're super rare, but they were dirt cheap, so I didn't want to miss out on them. So this one's actually got a detached back cover, so it actually makes it quite a bit, it's really fallen to bits, quite a bit tricky to keep together. But I'm not going to do anything with that except just leave it as is, and I'll pop that into I'll have to pop that into a comic bag just to keep it all together. But these are from that period during the war, where they're very, very brittle, printed on super thin paper. But at least it's getting a number out of the way in 1941, that one. This was one of the later ones, which I was missing, number 523. Not the greatest of copies, but it was one of the last few I needed in the second 500. So yeah, pleased to get that. I'm just looking at the spine there. It's not great, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue on that, just because it's risen up a little bit. So I haven't done any gluing today, but I just use regular sort of Pritt stick, and then I use just the end of like a tiny little micro screwdriver here, because it means you can get it into the very area where you need it. So this has actually been amateurly repaired already. So I've just lifted that bit up. There we are. And I can get quite a bit of glue in there now and do a better job than they did first time round. There we are. So I'll put that bit down, but the other bits, I'm afraid, not great. But as I said, it's one of the last few I needed to get the second 500 vintage Penguins done. So it was just like, I'll grab it to finish off the run. Right, putting my foot down then on the gas. Got a few more here to get through, a few more pelicans here. Let's get those out of the way. Very little. Look at how thin that one is. Great advert on the back there for Mars bars. Mars bars have to be one, of course. Encouraging children to dig for victory. This is obviously during the war. There, to make your Mars bar last longer, cut it up into slices. This is during the height of the war, so there was food rationing. About 1943. It's about as thin as they get. These don't need too much, just a little bit of a dust off in a minute. But they're generally okay. As I said, very, very fragile and delicate books, which are just there really just to fill in the collection. This was an upgrade. This is the second ever Pelican book, A2. It came out in 2 volumes. I got the first one. And this was just an upgrade on the one that I've got, which is not in the greatest of shape, so that's why we've got that fella. Another odd penguin special, which I've got as a handbook. And then another odd crime one that I was missing, number 602. Once again, not the greatest of shape, but very scarce, this one. So this one also needs some gluing, I'm afraid. So, not ideal, but if after all these years it's one that I haven't got at all, then that's a pretty good sign that ultimately it must be quite difficult to get hold of. So, if you ever come across, if you're collecting penguins and you come across this one, then you might subconsciously remember seeing this in one of my videos and thinking, oh blimey, yeah, that was a really expensive one. We need to grab that. So it's actually not too bad. It's got it back on there. At least it's not likely to chip off, which is the worry, isn't it? But it is just a filler until I can get a better one. But certainly not great by any means. But it will do. Now let's do the tops of these old penguins then. Yeah, so quite a bit to look forward to this year, really. I'd like to keep at least to 3 videos a week if I can. Some people say to me, or you listen to people who sort of do YouTube for a living, and often you hear them say YouTube itself rewards people who, or channels rather, that put up regular videos. So many people put up 1 or 2 and then don't get anywhere with their channel and they just give up, or people who they just suddenly take a month off without sort of planning it really. And I know stuff happens, there's life events, but I'd rather, knowing what I've got coming up this year, such as having our kitchen done, it is going to mean that potentially my regular videos might need to just slim down just for a little bit of time, not for long, just a bit, until things go back to normal, which they will, so it's not a problem at all. It's just one of those things that's going to happen. But when I have a dedicated studio, it's not going to matter if there's workmen in the house and things like that, because I'll be able to just go over to the sort of dedicated studio and do it that way. Now, the studio, as I said, I described what Next Door have done, which is basically built like a dedicated, almost like summer house. I'm not looking to do one that extravagant. I'm going to do one more out of, we'll just make it out of wood, basically. So it'll be more like a massive shed rather than something out of bricks and mortar. Simply because it's going to make it much cheaper. It'll be easier to keep it warm. Look at this, Mole Flanders with an introduction by Colin Wilson. That's interesting. This is the film tie-in to Mole Flanders. Definitely not got that one. So yeah, we'll see how we get on, because really it's going to be there for one purpose and one purpose only, to film. But potentially we'll put a nice little sort of moat around it, garden-wise, and we can use it as a bit of a, if we do have the odd hot day in the summer, we can use it as a bit somewhere to, stash a little fridge or something like that. That might be quite cool, because there will be power going out to it, so I can plug all my stuff in. So yeah, that's certainly the plan. I think it'll be pretty exciting, and it'll definitely make filming my videos easier, and I'll have more space and they'll look more professional. And I'll be able to have proper overhead cameras so you can sort of see the action a little bit better about what I'm doing. Because there's lots planned still for the new year. These were fairly straightforward, weren't they? Now, I'm just going to finish this one pile, and then I think we're going to have to call it. I'm going to need to call it a day for this video, I think. So I've got about another 10 or so books. Then I'm going to zip over and I'm going to see if I can sort out the covers. So we got that really bad one over there, which has got that mess on that we had at the start. That one needs plenty of sort of polish on. The other ones aren't too bad. What I should have done, some of the penguins and that I'm not able to, look at the dust coming off it, I'm not able to polish those because they're too, the covers aren't shiny, they're matte. There we are. So I should have put those to one side really. So we just got one more little pile or so to do of these, and then we'll get those we'll get them all polished up so that they're done and dusted, and that'll be sort of part one. And I've got about this much again. I've got 3 more huge stacks plus an odd hardback to do, which I'll sort of put into like a second part of pickups for December. And as I said, it was only because I got lucky and got a got that nice job lot, or 2 job lots of little pound books cheap, that I've got so many pound books, because these aren't books that I've necessarily gone out and bought. But I know we've got some other cool stuff to come. We've got some more Ed McBain, some film tie-ins. I got some Edge books this month, or last month, I was really pleased to get. So I'm 1 short for the set of the Gilman Edge books. That'd be brilliant. And I got some quite cool stuff coming up. So I've been very lucky in that. Justin Marriott, a fellow British paperback collector, that one's been laminated. Fellow British paperback collector is just slimming down some of his stuff that he's not reading anymore, and I was able to get off him his collection of vintage Dahl sci-fi and fantasy books. Dahl's a publisher I've collected, well, for years, really, on and off. I'd love to get the first sort of 500 or so, which encompasses their first 10 years, and Justin's collection is pretty much all from that period. I need to give that a wipe. Yeah, they're pretty much all from that period, which suits me down to the ground. So I've been able to get Justin's Dahls off him, and they'll be coming up as well, along with a little retrospective of that series, because they themselves are now, the Dahl books are now 50 years old, if you can believe it. I'm quite pleased to get this one. I don't have many of these sort of puzzle, sort of crosswordy books, and they're pretty rare. So this is quite a good one to get. Yeah, so I'd like to know if you collect the Dahl books. There's certainly some good ones in the run. There's some not so, stuff I'm not so fussed about, but there's definitely some good ones in there. He was very friendly with a Philip K. Dick, wasn't he? And I think he brought a lot of Philip K. Dick's books out to a modern audience in the early 70s, because he'd really helped Dick throughout his career. It was a shame that he never really saw the massive success that he enjoys today whilst he was alive. Right, we've just got 4 more to just go through. This is a sci-fi anthology, talking about sci-fi anthologies. Yeah, we've just got a bit of a... Yeah, so we were talking about upcoming videos, so I'm going to do some more dedicated ones a la The Saint and Leslie Charteris, with a bit more detail around the actual author and then how they were published. I've definitely got a really good one coming up on PG Woodhouse in vintage paperback, but predominantly vintage Penguin, because they're the ones I've mainly got, which I think will be really interesting. So yeah, one on PG Woodhouse I really like as an author. And then I've got another, we've got the Pan X video, so the Pan Giant video is coming. I've got another video coming on sort of Pan bigger display pieces, so cover art, shop display stuff, standees, that sort of thing. That's a video coming quite soon, and I might do a similar one for Penguin as well. So loads of stuff on the horizon here to go through. So I'm not going to be short of stuff for Pan books or Penguin, but I do want to find some other series, and the dolls that I'm getting off Justin is probably going to be the best part of 3 videos time I've pulled them all together. I've already got 50 or 60 doll books in my collection anyway, maybe a bit more. I've got some catalogues and things like that, which I think will be really interesting to look at. So that's all to come up book-wise in the future. Right, so I think that's all the books we're going to do today, because that's loads, but it's only about half of what I've got here. So they've all been cleaned sort of and dusted inside, but the last step of the process is just to go over some of them with my old Mr. Sheen and buff the covers up a little bit, particularly this one here, which I don't know. It looks like it's probably just going to come off, but if not, well, it may be unsalvageable, but let's hope so. Let's hope I can save it. So that's the last step today then. Right then, so let's get polishing. So I got my Mr. Sheen, and I'm going to put quite a big wedge on that book, because this was the one that was really, really bad. I'm not sure if it's going to pick this up or not. And looking at it, I think it's going to make it a little bit better, but I don't know what it was that was on there, but it looked like mud, didn't it? I think it is coming off slowly. Yeah, it is coming off. Yeah, maybe I have saved it. It wasn't a book too far. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Just might do as a little filler just for now until a better copy comes my way. But when you had a look and see, remember how bad that was? That's actually not come up too badly now. But it certainly was a bit borderline, and I'm pretty sure the reason I'm spending the time on it is because I don't think I've got it. It's one I haven't got, but it is very much borderline in the collection. But if it's a number I haven't got, I'll keep it, and once it's in spot, it'll get it nice and flat, so I can't really complain. That was really the only bad one in this lot. The rest of these are going to be fairly straightforward to clean off. It's mainly just a bit of surface dust more than anything. So we'll just zoom through these, and then that'll be this lot done, really. So I think news-wise, you're up to date on everything, really. We've discussed the new camera and how that was a bit of a non-starter. So I'm just continue to use my phone for the time being. The channel itself has been doing fantastic over the last few months, so it's going from strength to strength. Now, predominantly, my views do come from the gaming videos that I put up. So although I only do a handful of those every now and again, maybe 2 or 3 a month, to be honest, that's where all my views are coming from. And it's part of it is the YouTube generation, as it were, who like those sorts of videos. And who am I to stop doing them? Since they're bringing in the views ultimately. So I have to keep doing them, and I like doing them. So as well as me doing, the odd Star Wars video and lots and lots of book videos, I am going to need to keep doing the gaming videos. So I do absolutely appreciate that they're not everyone's cup of tea, but I hope you don't mind waiting until the next book video comes along, because as you know, books are very much my thing, and I do love doing these book videos for you. But you just, it's just one of those things. I'll tell you what has been very good lately, and that's my Patreon supporters. So if you've not joined the Patreon, you can do so from as little as $1, and that would give you access to all my videos, or a lot of my videos, in advance of them going out onto YouTube, sometimes a month in advance if I'm well ahead of the game. And you can have like a $3, it says $1, $3 or $5 sort of tier, and for that obviously you get my thanks. You do help the channel by putting towards equipment that I use to film my videos. So as I said, at the moment I'm saving up to get a dedicated wooden studio built, which is going to obviously cost a few quid, but well worth it. So those sort of things don't come cheap, and I just want to keep making the videos for you, basically. So if you can support even $1 a month, that adds up, over the course of a year. And it really, you may not even know, $3 is basically what the price of a coffee or something. So if you can afford that, it'll mean I can keep the videos coming, and also it will go towards getting the dedicated studio down the line, which, as I said, is looking to be done this year if possible, and it keeps the channel healthy. You get access to those videos early, as I said. I've also just sent my Patreon's little promo postcard for thanking them for being a patron. And they're all over the world, in USA, Canada, Australia. So I very much am grateful to my patrons for their continued support, because it does make a difference. The other thing I thought of is potentially, if anybody has got collections themselves that they would like to have cleaned up and receive the treatment, I'm more than happy to do it and film the process if that's what they would like. It would make it interesting to do something which perhaps isn't Pan Books, because I've got a lot of those, or Penguins. It would be good to do, some different publishers potentially. Some movie tie-ins, TV tie-ins, whatever really. So if you've got a collection of books that you would like to see cleaned up by my hand, and you don't mind arranging for them to get down to me, just to put them through the grinder, as it were, I'd be more than happy to do it if it was something interesting that we'd not covered on the channel before. I think that would be really cool, books that, not in my collection, but just ones that maybe you own, that you might fancy lending to me to clean up, a bit like those Saint books, which are going to come from that Saint collector. Although they weren't for cleaning purposes, they were just for the sake of a new Saint documentary. The other thing, of course, I have been thinking about different authors in Pan Books who you might be interested in having the treatment, as it were. So I have already done, early on, I did sort of mini documentaries on Ian Fleming, James Bond books in Pan Book, and I did one on Agatha Christie in Pan and Penguin, and I did George Orwell in Penguin, but they didn't really cover their careers much. It was just more like it was just, here's the books in order sort of thing, whereas the Charterists, I did do a little bit of backstory, which I think really added to it. So I am up for suggestions about who you would perhaps like to see covered in Pan Books in future. So a couple that I'm thinking about are the crime authors, so Edgar Wallace in Pan, and Earl Stanley Gardner in Pan Books. I might have a stab at doing Simonon in, say, vintage paperback, so that would be Penguin, Pan, and I think even Foursquare did a few, similar to my Woodhouse one in vintage paperback, which I've got planned. I'm going to try and do that one. But I would very much appreciate a bit of, what do you guys want to see, really, You only need to go to Tim's website, ticket.net, which is, the Ultimate Pan website, and you'll see the whole host of big authors that were published by Pan over the years. And maybe you could see one that you perhaps would like in a bit more detail. I am very tempted to go back and redo Ian Fleming in Pan Book in general, because I did the Pan Book first editions for Ian Fleming, and then I did the Pan movie tie-ins, but I didn't do sort of an overview of all the different covers in between, of which there are a lot. But that's because I don't know if I've actually got all the different jackets. I've got most of the early ones, but they did have interesting jackets right through to the 1970s as well. And I don't really want to track those down just for the sake of filming them, because I'm happy with the Fleming books that I've got. I don't feel I actually need any more. I've got everything that I need now, so it may be I could cover them, and including the later 70s ones, but I just put pictures up instead of actually having the books. But those are the ones when they start to move at the tail end of the 60s, early 70s. The James Bond books moved into those sort of the photographic covers, and they are really nice themselves. And then they moved from Pan over to Panther. The Panther, is it Panther Triad? I think they were. Quite nice to have that Dell mat back there for Fools Die on Friday. I've been after that for ages. So yeah, I'll do at this point. I'll just put up both covers side by side so you can see if that was the more risque one, or if they zipped her right up. I think now that's the more risque version of it. So I now need to get the other version. It's a big thick one here, Island in the Sun. But on the whole, there's a few perhaps that they'll just end up in like a little Pan job lot of my own. But in a lot of cases, some of these are really nice, and I'm very, very pleased to have them. I'm certain they're going to be filling in a few gaps in my collection, which I shall start on. I've got the second part of this video to film in a moment, so I'm going to crack on straight with it, and you'll see it in a couple of weeks' time. I'll split it into two, just so you know, just so this video doesn't go on for like 2 or 3 hours, because there is so much to get through today. But on the plus side, you get a double dosing of pickups, which I know people love these videos. So that's cool, and I certainly love doing them. Getting there, almost halfway now. So the next one, of course, is yet another copy of A Hard Day's Night. So I've already kept 2 in my collection, because I've got that nice contract from John Burt. That's actually, once again, quite a nice copy. So I may end up keeping it just for now and having 3 copies of it. I have got another copy which isn't that great, which I'm going to just trade on that one. I do believe Tim over at ticket.net, I seem to remember long ago he used to, I'm sure he said to me once he picked up multiple copies of Casino Royale, the first Pan edition of that, because I think that even of the first, it did get reprinted, so there's a first and a second, but I think there's a couple of variations of it as well. And I think Tim was trying to track down all of those, and he must have them by now. But I believe that particular book he's got multiple copies of, or at least he certainly used to, which was, certainly one of the more expensive Pan titles, but the rarest Pan book, or it seems to be the most valuable, seems to be the the first pan edition of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which I have recently seen sell for £500, which is mega money, isn't it? Mega money. I remember getting mine at a London Penguin book fair for 50p. And I was rather pleased about that. And at the same time it was the first time I picked up a copy of The Hobbit in paperback first, which was published by Puffin in 1966. Really beautiful wraparound jacket to The Hobbit. And that's another one, that was just 50p, and that's another one that goes for about £75. That was £1 particularly well spent. I think you'll agree. I'm almost there on the Ed McBain's, so I'm looking forward to doing an Ed McBain in UK first edition. I may not have the very latest ones, but certainly everything up to about 1980 I've got complete now in reasonable condition. This isn't the greatest one, but I'll keep it as a reader because I do like Ed McBain. I'm getting through these quite well now. Look at the dirt that's come off them so far. Quite a bit, eh? But that's okay. This one's a little bit worse for wear, so I probably won't end up keeping this one. I think I've already got it anyway. These ones with black covers can generally show up dirt and dust more than others, so these really do benefit from a little clean like that. And that's interesting with that sort of picture on the front there, isn't it? Doesn't tie in. It looks like a bit like a movie tie-in, but it's not. It's just a dramatic front cover, and certainly that stood out quite a bit. Fall of Singapore. That's quite a dramatic moment in the Second World War, wasn't it? Under British control at the time, the Japanese invaded pretty much right out of the blue, and that meant many British and Australian and New Zealand inhabitants of Singapore were sent to Japanese concentration camps. So in this lot, as I said, there were a couple of job lots that I bought. There wasn't a lot of, at least so far, I haven't seen a lot of like the classic crime or things like that, and that is because, you know, anybody who's anybody would know that, you know, you're not going to put a load of rare Agatha Christie's or any James Bond books in with a job lot of just cheap run-of-the-mill sort of pan books. But even so, what's here is actually quite good. And if you collect the publishers, which I do, there are some good stuff, or there is rather some good stuff in here to enjoy. So I shall, when I've finished doing both lots, I'm going to put the whole lot into order, and then I'll slowly but surely go through my own collection and see which ones I've been able to fill gaps in, and also what are the better, which copies I didn't have at all. So there's definitely some here that I've never had, which will be filling in gaps, and others which will just be doubles. As I said, I do sell on eBay, so if you ever want to check out what I've got at any one time, my user ID is ZapRetro. On eBay, and that's where I put my doubles when I got chances. So I got 500 or 600 spare pans to get listed, so there's loads to go. It's just a matter of just having the time to photograph them and then get them listed. So today, because I've got all my camera equipment out filming, I am going to, at the end of the day, get another sort of 50 or so books filmed, photographed rather, so that I can get them up on to eBay over the next few couple of weeks. Else I'm never going to get rid of all my spares, and I'd like to get a shot of some before we get the kitchen done. So that is the plan. That is the plan. Nice bright 60s Perry Mason. I said I think the Earl Stanley Gardeners will actually be, that would be quite a nice little video, that, to do Earl Stanley Gardener in pan books. I think that would be quite fun. Just wondering. Yeah, it's okay. Obviously, before I started the cameras rolling, cleaning these, I took out all the penguins and the hardbacks which can't be done this way, because you only want to put this level of like polish on books which have got a shiny surface. You don't want to do it on books which are got like a matte finish. That would be no good at all. We don't want to be doing that, do we? Because that would damage the actual book jackets. That's the one to check, and I think it's signed, so I'm going to need to go online now and see if I can find something signed by Alexander Cordell and see if the signature inside this one is accurate and correct. It looks good, it looks genuine from my experience, so that would be quite a plus, wouldn't it? So I'm just on to the last stack now, and then we'll all be done. So I'm just going to reposition the camera a sec. Right, in for the last little bit now. So just got about a dozen more books to clean up on the covers, and then that will be stage one done. And it's only taken me about 2 hours on and off, with a little bit of camera issues and microphone issues as well. So I'm hoping the sound is going to be okay and not too bad for your ears, because I know lots of people just like to sort of half watch these but listen to me rambling on. So I hope it's been reasonably interesting today. So I have got a nice little batch, again, of very, very similar sorts of books, as well as some others as well, which I should be filming straight after this, but you'll see that in about 2 weeks. In about 2 weeks' time, I'll pop that one up, all right? And then, so you get double this month, because so far in January I've bought very little. I've got a few Penguin PG Woodhouses on the way, which I didn't have in my collection, and Penguin did do an awful lot of his output, and although I had all the early ones, there were a few later ones, sort of 60s ones, that I didn't have. So all bar one or two I've tracked down fairly reasonably now, because although Woodhouse himself is quite a collectible author, Penguin printed lots of copies of the books, so they're not rare, which is good for us nowadays because they're not difficult to get hold of. And that can be the main sort of issue with books these days that generally causes books to go up in value, is that demand outstrips supply. So if we go back to something like Casino Royale, because the James Bond books are so expensive to collect in hardback, certainly even, well, that's why, one of the reasons why I started collecting paperbacks is that I'd love to collect first editions, but the authors that I like to collect were always really expensive. So I thought, well, I'll just collect them in paperback first, which is like the poor man's first edition. But I didn't mind, because I always found the paperbacks equally as fun to collect, and you could get much more for your money. So that's how I've always sort of viewed these things. Right, so pretty pleased with how these have come up today. Certainly an improvement over what was there. And obviously, once I've done all of them, the final piece of the puzzle will be putting them into series order and then going through my own collection, filling in the little gaps and upgrading the copies that potentially are there. And then I'll be able to see what I've got. But I got these at such a great price that it was worth the extra work just doing these, which is what I have done. So I hope you enjoyed looking through this little batch, and in a couple of weeks you'll have another load, exactly the same but different books, but very, very similar, to go through again. If you have enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it the thumbs up. Do please spread it around on social media if you don't mind. If you've got any like-minded friends who you think might enjoy these videos, pop it onto Twitter. One of the great places to put it is Reddit. So if you know any book groups on Reddit and you want to plug my videos, that would be really appreciated, because they tend to be very, very good for sort of sharing videos. Do obviously subscribe if you've not already. I know my subscribers are very, very loyal, and I'm so appreciative of that. But do hit it if you haven't already. And as I clean this last one, I'll look forward to seeing you again very, very soon for another books pickup video. Bye.